Welcome back, players. I'm Jack with 36 Cancel, and this is Coco the Weiss Cat. So Kaguya, Love is War is another one of those sets that I didn't think I'd go into. The show was an absolute banger, but it wasn't my jam, and I knew the set was fun, but hadn't looked too much into it. However, between my local shop happening to have some boxes in stock and on the shelves in a rare turn of events, some curiosity, and a gnawing, crawling, stabbing feeling to crack open some packs, I ended up with some Kaguya stuff. And you know what? It's pretty awesome. I ended up making a set discussion, which if you're not too familiar with Kaguya yet, I'd suggest checking out, because there's a lot of cool stuff you can do with this set. Now, a lot of people are trying to make the Spartan training deck work, and I don't really understand why since that whole package is hot ass, but the Chika deck and the Kaguya deck are fire. And today I want to talk about the Kaguya deck because this one has a lot of great cards, big brain interactions, and just a ton of cool elements in one deck. So without further ado, let's get into it. Now, pictured here is my personal take on the deck. I'm going to make a deck list available in the description. However, because of the positive feedback I got on the deck tech I did for Day Day Live, what we'll do here is go over the major staples and shell of the deck, and then touch on the variations and choices you can make. So with that in mind, the first thing to say about the Kaguya deck as a whole is that the shell is extremely clear. There are a lot of 3s and 4-ofs, and there isn't a ton of variation or many tech-ins, and in some ways this is very indicative of the set. It's designed with a lot of synergy and structure already in mind. The package of 4 standby, 4 gate, and the use of the level 1 Kaguya and level 3 Kaguya combos is fairly universal. And because of that, the deck is primarily focused on red. However, the inherently rainbow level 0 game makes splashing very easy for minor variations without totally changing your prime choices. So while a lot of the deck is straightforward, I'll still visit the places where we do see players diverging from the main list and talking about the different flavors you can add. And as usual, we'll start at the bottom at 0 and work our way up to the level 3, first covering the staples and then the variants and choices. So without further ado, let's jump in. Now this is very interesting because we're actually starting off with a drop searcher that's not even our main color. Bestowing Courage Eye is a pay 1 pitch 1 search and an effect that's found in many decks as a tech inclusion, but Bestowing Courage Eye is actually one of our main components, usually at a 3 or 4 of, because of her second ability and the fact that she's a resonate target. Her second ability is that if you play a climax, you can bounce Eye back to your hand and give a character plus 2k until the end of turn. Now the fact that you can bounce a card with a useful on-play effect to gain a further effect is amazing enough. This is some close call silica shit. However, like we said, Eye is also a resonate target for 2 very important cards to the deck strategy. So Eye does a myriad of things for us right off the bat and has my vote for the best drop searcher in English Weiss. Don't at me. Kaguya in general has some exceptionally strong level 0s that have super pumped abilities and combinations of abilities, and another example of this is our second staple, Serious Showdown Between Geniuses, K. At base 2k, K is a mill runner, meaning at the start of your opponent's attack phase, you can put the top card of your deck into your waiting room, and if you find a character, or one specific event that we're not running, you can move her to an open position of your center stage. This is already a pretty respectable profile, but K also carries the coveted clean-cut craft. When she reverses her opponent, you can choose another one of your characters, rest them, and move them to an open position of your backstage. Both of these abilities have the potential to give you a ton of advantage in tempo over your opponent in the early game, and you won't find them on the same card anywhere else. So of course, she's an absolute staple and a 4 of in most any meta Kaguya deck with any build, though especially this one. Moving right along to another universal staple, and visiting our third color that isn't red, we have Supreme Bliss Chika. Chika is 1k and carries the Riki ability, meaning that when you play her from your hand, you can pay 1 and clock yourself to search your deck for a level 1 or lower character. She has another auto effect that when she comes in, you reveal the top card of your deck. If it's a character, you can give any one of your characters plus 2k until the end of turn. Not only does this have the potential to make her 3k, but since you can give the power to anyone, you can really push for high numbers with Kaguya's already strong 0s. Again, Chika is a fusion between 2 great abilities on level 0s, and she's a 3 of or sometimes 4 of staple in most any Kaguya deck. Now, while these comprise our main body of level 0, there's still another aspect to talk about, the Brainstormer. There are 2 primary choices. First, there's the more traditional, miraculous compatibility Kaguya. On play, you can give one of your opponent's characters in their center stage minus 500, and she's a tap self-searching Brainstormer. It's a very strong profile and offers a lot. The second choice is Full Sprint Kaguya, a box topper promo. You can rest her and give a character plus 1k for the turn, and she's a repeatable salvage and discard Brainstormer. Now these aren't too common in the meta decks in this day and age of Weiss 4s, but she's a popular choice here because the repeatable Brainstorming lets you get back some of the deck control you sacrificed by packing a more standby-centric kit. And of course, giving your characters more power, which in Kaguya have a lot of on-reverse effects, is a good thing, so both of these are strong options. The rest of the level 0 is almost totally up to you, and there are some very strong choices. At this point, however, just for color balance, most people focus into red for these slots, and red has a lot to offer. Kaguya has a free-running level 0 reverser, as well as a twin-driving stock swapper, both being very strong options. There's also a pay 1 climax swapper, and an alternative brainstorm with a top check 3 for a card effect. But there are also plenty of other options too numerous to list, so instead, let's move on to level 1. Now, Kaguya's level 1 game is significantly more tight. There's a lot less space to work with, but it packs significant parts of the deck strategy. So first, let's look at the obvious 4 of In the Corridor at Dusk Kaguya. At 5k, her whole shtick is her climax combo, but since this is our standby trigger, she gets a significant boost in utility. Here's how she works. When she attacks with her combo, you can look at the top card of your deck and put it under her face down as a marker. That's the end of the actual combo, but she has another auto ability that's independent of that. When she reverses her battle opponent, you can take a marker from under her and put it into the waiting room, and then search your deck for a character. Now I know this just sounds like a reverse combo with extra steps, but the thing about it is you can catch this ability on both your and your opponent's turn. The not so nice thing is you're trying to reverse something on 5k with no power boosts from your climax. However, there's 2 silver linings. First, Kaguya has a lot of ways to dole out extra power, especially in those level 0s that carry utility throughout the game. And second, this is a standby combo with advantage, so pretty much no matter how tough an on-reverse combo is to get with this, it's just a huge plus to any standby package, even if you only get one. But speaking of the standby package, there's always the obligatory 1/1 7500 with Hand Encore, and as anywhere from a 2 of to a 4 of in different decks, Kaguya has one. But Kaguya's actually got another 1/1 that plays into the strategy. Hopeless at IT Kaguya is a very rare breed, a 1/1 level assister with a second ability. It's a Resonate ability with Bestowing Courage I. You Resonate, pay 1, and rest IT Kaguya. Then you look at the top 3 cards of your deck, reveal a character, and add it to your hand. I already talked about how amazing this combo is in my set profile for Kaguya, but it bears repeating here. This is a level 1 assister in a standby deck that acts as a free +1 each turn that resonates with the drop searcher that bounces to your hand for extra power. I give this a "this is the fucking tits" out of 5. It's a huge part of why the deck is so strong and a definite 3 of in most builds, though some cut down to 2 depending on their strategy. Now before we move up the chain, we have another addition to the level 1 lineup. It's pretty standard though, the 102k backup integral to any deck that relies on board presence, especially standby. Also at level 1, some people choose to widen the package a bit and tech in some of the decent level 1 Miyukis that gain a healthy amount of power from having experience in your level zone and synergize with the shell of the deck. Some builds also choose to run them entirely in place of the 1/1 7500, but this depends on the style you're going for, and the level 2 is another place where we see some wiggle room, though we may as well start with a staple, Bewitching Pose Kaguya. She's a 2/1 2500 backup free fresh for 2 extra stock, and there's no arguing with that, especially not in standby. People are generally running her as a 2 of for consistency, but she's also the end of the level 2 game that sees pretty much no variation. When it comes to the rest, there are some choices to make. So being that this is a standby deck, as is written in the ancient scrolls, you need a 2/2 with 2 soul, and there are 2 ways you can check this box. First and most popular is Fireworks Display U, the generic 2/2 with 2 soul and Hand Encore. He offers everything we really want, but the annoying thing is that he's totally off color. This doesn't really matter for practical purposes since you're never playing him from your hand, but it does cut down on the cards you can clock effectively. The other choice people make is Smithy A. Herthika, sporting a much more playable color, but a significantly worse name. The real pros and cons are the fact that she's blue and hits 11k, but for the price of that extra 1k, she doesn't have Hand Encore. Which one you use is going to depend on what you perceive the power level of your meta to be and how you want to manage your colors. Now believe it or not, the level 2 choices don't end there. A lot of players elect to run some mix of the level 2 red Kaguyas that offer some techie effects, like moving around your opponent's characters and getting rid of early plays. These are also helpful if you decide to run more of the Miyuki toolbox, which relies heavily on experience. Of course, this does put a strain on your already tight deck list, so again, this is a meta-dependent choice as to whether or not you think this particular toolkit will let you eke out some edge case victories. And with that said, it's time to move on to the level 3. You may not imagine it, but while there's pretty much one universal finisher, it's anyone's game for the supporting tech. This is thanks to Kaguya's abundance of early plays in level 3 tech, and players choose to run many different combinations of these in varying amounts, so it's hard to pin down the correct answer, but let's lay them out. First, the simplest, A Certain Summer Day, K. At 10k, she's a 2 or less early play and a pitch stock healer. What she offers is solid and valuable, but basic and unremarkable. No matter what, it will be tough to fault anyone for running her. Then there's another early play healer, Showdown Between Geniuses I. At 8500, she gets plus 1500 if you have 2 or more other characters, and also gets the ability that your opponent can play events during her battle. Her condition is 4 or more characters, and she's a straight healer. Again, this is rather unremarkable, but it offers a slightly different set of benefits than Kay, which is why a lot of players choose to mix and match. Finally, as for early plays, there's Persistent Conviction Miyuki, which is totally different. When he comes in, he gets plus 4500 power and cannot be backed up against until the end of your opponent's next turn. And if you have experience 4 or more, you can pay 2 and pitch a card to quad kick his battle opponent on any turn. So Miyuki is far more of a problem solver and a wall than your more conventional tempo and healing early play. His value somewhat diminishes if you're not running the extra level 2s to ensure the experience cost, but sometimes just being able to outpower your opponent and not be backed up against is a major swing factor. These are all very fair choices, and again, the exact ratios vary from deck to deck, but mixing and matching any combination of them depending on how you make your choices elsewhere in your deck is the general idea. But then we have more level 3 tech. There's also this back row level 3 supporter, Psychology Test Chica. She has other abilities besides giving all characters in front of her plus 2k, but they're irrelevant in most meta Kaguya decks as they have to do with a Love Detective event package. Obviously in a standby deck, level 3 supporters can be game changers and make your field insurmountable to most attacks. However, some elect not to run her at all as the Kaguya level 1 assister fills this role well enough. There's also the blue trial deck Kaguya, which if she's in your center stage gives all your characters a further plus 1500, and when she attacks you can pay 1 and pitch 1 to have your opponent put the bottom 3 cards of their deck into their waiting room and then burn X where X is climaxes. It's an extremely threatening standby target and a great secondary finisher, but being that Kaguya is already a tight list, she doesn't make the cut for every deck. Now we come to our finisher, and there's no question about this one. First off, Serious Showdown between Geniuses Kaguya is a healer, and she's got a combo with a gate. When she attacks, you can pay 1 and deal 1 damage to your opponent, and then she gets plus 2k until the end of your opponent's next turn. Her second ability is that when you reverse a battle opponent, you can pitch a card and resonate with Bestowing Courage I and deal 1 damage to your opponent. So if we take this card's abilities as a whole package, what we have here is a level 3 double burning Mikasa that heals and activates for a lower cost. And judging by how dominant across the meta and surgical in damage that Mikasa has proved to be in the years, no one is questioning Kaguya. After all, you only need 1 stock, 1 eye, and 3 other random cards in your hand to burn 6 times when you move into the attack phase, and that's a scary low amount of resources you have to pile up to lay down a fiery beating. So at the end of the day, what we have here when we put these tools together is a very strong and consistent deck. It offers the stage presence of some of the best standby builds, but in a lot of ways doesn't sacrifice the control and consistency that they can sometimes lack. Kaguya also packs a lot of cards that just have amazing text on them and play as though they're a cut above the rest, calling out to anyone who's a fan of the classic good cards deck. But another thing that people find appealing about it is that it plays very well into other powerful sets as a result of its balance between stage power, tempo, and deck control. And finally, it offers a lot of potential for finesse plays and a challenging and rewarding path to mastery. So if any of this appeals to you, or you are one of the many who enjoy the clever and humorous anime that Kaguya comes from, I would heavily consider taking up arms in the Battle of Love and taking up the Kaguya deck as your weapon of choice. After all, what else is weiss than a battle of love for our waifus and a refusal to submit to the tastes of our opponents? And as always, thanks for watching. Peace.